The laughter died in Master Sergeant Kane's throat the moment Colonel Harrison slammed the classified folder on the table. "You want to know who pulled you out of Fallujah when your entire squad was pinned down? Who took out 7 insurgents from 1,800 meters while you were bleeding out behind that wall?" Kane's face went pale. Harrison pointed directly at the young woman standing quietly by the equipment rack. The same woman Kane had just called sweetheart and told to go fetch coffee. "That's Viper 1, and according to this file, she saved your life 3 years ago." If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to our channel and watch until the end. Comment below with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The Barrett M82 felt cold under Sarah Cole's fingertips as she adjusted the Leopold Mark V scope with practiced precision. Each click of the elevation turret measured exactly 1/10 of a milliradian. Most people wouldn't notice the difference. Sarah noticed everything. "What the hell is this?" The voice cut through the morning air like a blade. Sarah didn't flinch, didn't look up. Her fingers continued their work. "I said, what the hell is this?" Master Sergeant Kane stood 6'3", 240 pounds of Delta Force muscle and barely contained aggression. He'd been in the teams for 16 years, survived 4 deployments, killed more men than he cared to count. And right now he was staring at a woman who looked like she belonged at a college campus, not a military firing range. "I'm calibrating the optics for today's qualification," Sarah replied quietly. Her voice barely rose above the wind. Kane stepped closer, close enough that his shadow fell across her workspace. "Who authorized a civilian to touch my weapons?" Sarah finally looked up. Her amber eyes met his for just a fraction of a second before returning to the scope. "Captain Morrison assigned me to prepare the equipment, Sergeant." "Morrison's not here. I am. And I don't know you." She was 28 years old, 5'4", maybe 120 soaking wet. Honey blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a plain olive contractor shirt that hung loose on her frame and faded cargo pants that had seen better days. No makeup, no jewelry except for a small, tarnished badge on her chest that Kane barely glanced at. She looked like someone's kid sister. Someone who should be studying for finals, not handling 50 caliber rifles that could punch through engine blocks. "You got a name, sweetheart?" Sarah set down the scope adjustment tool. "Sarah Cole, equipment technician." "Equipment technician?" Kane laughed. Actually laughed. "Boys, come look at this. They've got college girls playing with our guns now." 3 more operators emerged from behind the equipment truck. Staff Sergeant Williams at 6'1", built like a linebacker. Sergeant First Class Torres, wiry but dangerous with 15 years of combat experience etched into the lines around his eyes. And Specialist Brooks, the youngest at 26, but already sporting a Ranger tab and combat infantry badge. They formed a semicircle around Sarah's workstation. 4 men who had trained for years to intimidate, to dominate, to break resistance with their mere presence. Sarah didn't move. "You ever fired one of these, sweetheart?" Torres asked, picking up the Barrett like it weighed nothing. "Probably blow your little shoulder right off." "I'm familiar with the platform." "Familiar?" Williams snorted. "That's cute. Familiar like you read about it in a book." Kane crossed his arms. "Let me guess. Women's Studies major gender equality in the military thesis, here to prove girls can play with the big boys." Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm here to do my job, Sergeant." "Your job?" Kane leaned closer. "Your job is to stay out of the way of actual operators who actually risk their lives. Your job is to make sure the coffee's hot and the paperwork's filed. Your job is definitely not touching equipment that costs more than your annual salary." Something flickered in Sarah's amber eyes. Something hot and fierce that was gone before Kane could identify it. "Understood, Sergeant. I'll work on the other stations." She moved to gather her tools, but Torres blocked her path. "Hold up. What's the rush? We're just getting to know each other." The General's inspection was moved up. I need to have all 5 positions ready by 0700. General can wait. This is more important. Torres grinned. "See, we've got a problem with civilians on our range, especially civilians who think they know something about our work." Kane picked up a round of 50 BMG ammunition, rolling it between his fingers. "You know what this does to a human body. This isn't a video game. This isn't some movie. This is the real thing. One of these hits a person, they stop being a person. They become a red mist." Sarah's voice remained steady. "I'm aware of terminal ballistics." Are you really?" Kane stepped into her personal space. "Because I've seen it. I've done it. And you standing here with your little clipboard and your little badge playing soldier, it's disrespectful to everyone who actually bleeds for this country." For a long moment, Sarah said nothing. Her eyes tracked across Kane's face, noting the small scar above his left eyebrow, the slightly crooked set of his nose from a break that hadn't healed straight the particular way he favored his right leg. "Your service is noted, Sergeant. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have equipment to prepare." She sidestepped Torres and walked toward Station 2, her back straight, her pace unhurried. Kane watched her go, irritation burning in his chest. Something about her calm bothered him more than anger would have. People didn't stay calm around him. People got nervous, apologetic, submissive. This girl walked away like he was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "What's her deal?" Brooks asked quietly. "Who cares?" Kane muttered. "She'll be gone by lunch. Her type always is." From his position near the scoring table, Specialist Ortiz had watched the entire exchange. Ortiz was nobody's idea of an operator. He was a data analyst, a paper pusher, the guy who made sure the qualification scores got entered correctly and the equipment logs stayed updated. He was also very, very observant. And something about Sarah Cole didn't add up. He pulled up her contractor file on his tablet. Basic information: security clearance, medical clearance, emergency contact listed as a child services agency for someone named Tyler Cole, age 10, relationship brother. No employment history before 6 months ago. No educational background. No previous military service listed. Nothing. Her entire record before Fort Bragg was a blank page. Ortiz had seen blank pages before. Usually they belonged to people with something to hide. Sometimes they belonged to people whose real records existed in databases that didn't officially exist. He zoomed in on her contractor photo. Young face. Pretty in an understated way. But her eyes looked older than 28. They looked like eyes that had seen things. Ortiz glanced up at Sarah, who was now unpacking equipment at Station 2 with mechanical efficiency. Then he looked at Kane, who was still glaring in her direction. This was going to be an interesting morning. Captain Julia Morrison arrived at 0645, her coffee still steaming in a travel mug. She found Kane and his team running their pre-qualification drills, while Sarah worked silently at the far end of the range. "Cole, status report." Sarah straightened. "4 stations operational, ma'am. Station 5 had a scope mounting issue. I'm addressing it now." "Good." General Harrison moved up his inspection. "He'll be here by 0730. Kane's head snapped around. "Harrison, as in Colonel Marcus Harrison from SOCOM." "That's right. He's evaluating our sniper training program for potential expansion." Kane's demeanor shifted immediately. Harrison wasn't just any flag officer. He was a legend in the special operations community. 3 silver stars, 2 deployments to places that still didn't appear on any official map. If anyone's opinion mattered, it was his. "Make sure everything's perfect, Captain." Morrison's eyes flicked to Sarah. "That's what Cole is here for." "With respect, ma'am, I'd feel better if one of our own handled the equipment prep. We don't know this girl." "I do." Morrison's voice carried an edge. "That's all you need to know." She walked away before Kane could respond. William sidled up to Kane. "What was that about?" "No idea, but I don't like it." "Maybe the captain's going soft, all this diversity inclusion crap." Kane shook his head. "Morrison doesn't go soft. There's something else here." He watched Sarah lift a 40-pound equipment case like it weighed nothing. The motion was smooth, controlled. Military. Not the awkward struggle of someone unused to heavy gear. "Keep an eye on her," Kane said quietly. "Something's off." At Station 5, Sarah worked through the scope mounting issue with methodical precision. The elevation adjustment ring had a slight cant throwing off the zero by approximately 2 MOA at distance. Most technicians would have missed it entirely. She corrected it in under 30 seconds. As she worked, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "Text from Child Services Tyler asking about you. Called 3 times this morning." "Everything okay?" Sarah's jaw tightened. She typed back quickly. "Tell him I love him. Work emergency. We'll call tonight." The response came immediately. "He's worried. Says he had a nightmare. You're supposed to have custody review next week." "I know. I'll be there." She pocketed the phone and returned to work, but her movements were slightly less fluid now. The mention of Tyler had cracked something in her carefully maintained composure. Tyler was 10 years old. He'd been 6 when their parents died in the car accident. Too young to understand why his big sister kept disappearing for months at a time, only to return with new scars and the same distant look in her eyes. She'd promised him she was done with that life. Promised him she'd be there. Promised him she'd be normal. But promises didn't pay bills. And normal didn't cover the therapy Tyler needed, or the medical debt from their parents' accident, or the custody lawyers who charged $300 an hour. So here she was. Equipment technician. Civilian contractor. Nobody special. "Hey, Princess." Sarah didn't turn. "Sergeant Torres? How'd you know it was me?" "Your gait has a distinctive pattern. Left leg slightly favored. Probably an old injury." Torres circled around to face her, his expression curious now rather than mocking. "That's pretty observant for a desk jockey." "I pay attention." "Yeah, I noticed." He studied her for a moment. "Where'd you serve?" Sarah's hands paused on the equipment. "I'm a civilian contractor." "That's not what I asked." She looked up at him. "That's the only answer I have." Torres held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Fair enough. But just so you know, Kane's not a bad guy. He's just protective. We lost 3 guys last year. Good guys. Young guys. He's got a chip on his shoulder about people who haven't earned their place." "Understood. And for what it's worth," Torres glanced around to make sure they were alone, "the way you handled that scope mount, that's not civilian work. That's precision training." Sarah didn't respond. Torres smiled slightly. "Yeah, that's what I thought." He walked away, leaving Sarah alone with the equipment and the weight of secrets she couldn't share. By 07:15, the range was fully operational. 5 shooting positions each equipped with a perfectly calibrated Barrett M82A1 fresh ammunition, sorted by lot number data books, open to clean pages, wind meters, and spotting scopes positioned for optimal use. It was the kind of setup that usually took a team of 3 soldiers 2 hours to complete. Sarah had done it alone in less than half that time. Kane noticed. He didn't want to notice, but he did. Morrison noticed too, making a slow circuit of the stations and nodding with visible satisfaction at each one. "Excellent work, Cole." "Thank you, ma'am." "General Harrison should be here in 10 minutes. Take a break. You've earned it." Sarah shook her head. "I'd prefer to stay on station in case any last-minute adjustments are needed." Morrison studied her for a moment. Something passed between them, some unspoken understanding that Kane couldn't read. "Suit yourself." The sound of vehicles approaching drew everyone's attention. 2 black SUVs pulled into the range parking area, their engines shutting off in perfect unison. Security personnel emerged first, scanning the area with practiced efficiency. Then Colonel Marcus Harrison stepped out. He was 62 years old, but moved like a man half that age. His gray hair was cut regulation short, and his eyes swept across the range with the sharp assessment of someone who'd spent a lifetime reading situations at a glance. 3 aides flanked him, tablets and folders in hand. One of them carried a leather briefcase that looked old enough to have seen action in Desert Storm. "Captain Morrison." Harrison's voice was deep, authoritative. "Good to see you again." "Colonel, welcome to Fort Bragg." Harrison's gaze moved across the range, taking in the equipment, the personnel, the setup. His eyes lingered briefly on Kane and his team, then moved on. Until they reached Sarah. He stopped walking. For 3 full seconds, Colonel Marcus Harrison stared at the young woman standing quietly by Station 5. His face went completely still. Then he started walking again, this time directly toward her. Kane's instincts flared. Something was wrong. The general's body language had changed completely. Where before he'd been conducting a routine inspection, now he moved with focused intent. "Colonel," Morrison hurried to keep pace. "Is something wrong?" Harrison didn't answer. He stopped 5 feet from Sarah, his eyes fixed on her chest. Not in a leering way, in an analyzing way. On her badge. Kane had barely glanced at it earlier. A small tarnished piece of metal partially hidden behind her contractor lanyard. He'd assumed it was some kind of unit coin or civilian award, but Harrison was staring at it like it was the most significant thing on the entire range. "Where did you get that?" His voice was barely above a whisper. Sarah's face remained neutral. "It was issued to me, sir." "Issued by who?" "I'm not at liberty to say." Harrison's eyes narrowed. He reached into the briefcase his aide carried and pulled out a worn folder. The classification markings on its cover would have made most people's security clearances evaporate on contact. He opened it and flipped through several pages until he found what he was looking for. This photograph was taken in Syria 3 years ago. He held it up. A grainy surveillance image showed a figure in a ghillie suit, barely visible against the desert terrain, positioned behind a Barrett rifle. The shooter eliminated 7 targets at ranges between 1,600 and 1,800 meters in under 90 seconds, saved an entire convoy from ambush, 34 American lives. He turned to look at Kane directly. "Your convoy, Master Sergeant. You were in that group. Took a round to the shoulder, but survived because someone eliminated the threat before the ambush could fully develop." Kane's face went pale. He remembered that day. Remembered the blood. Remembered the chaos. Remembered the distinctive crack of 50 caliber rounds punching through the air from somewhere he couldn't see. "The shooter's call sign was Viper 1, Harrison continued. "Youngest operator ever admitted to the Phantom Protocol program. 67 confirmed kills over a 2-year operational window. 3 Silver Stars, all classified. Identity protected under executive order." He turned back to Sarah. "Hello, Viper. It's been a while." The silence on the range was absolute. Kane stared at Sarah. At the young woman he'd dismissed as a college girl playing soldier. At the sweetheart he'd told to fetch coffee. At the civilian he'd mocked for daring to touch his weapons. "That's impossible," he heard himself say. Harrison's eyes never left Sarah. "Is it Master Sergeant because I have her service record right here? And I have the ballistic analysis from every shot she ever took. And I have the after-action reports from operations you'll never read about in any official history." Sarah's expression hadn't changed. She stood perfectly still, neither confirming nor denying. "The badge she's wearing is a Phantom Protocol identifier," Harrison said to the assembled group. "There are exactly 12 of them in existence. 6 were buried with their owners. 2 are in a classified museum at Langley. The remaining 4 are carried by the only operators still alive." He paused. "And the woman you've been mocking all morning is one of them." Torres stepped forward, his face ashen. "Viper 1 was a woman. Viper 1 was the most accurate long-range shooter Phantom Protocol ever produced." Harrison's voice carried a note of something close to reverence. At 22 years old, she was hitting targets that operators with twice her experience couldn't touch. By 24, she held the record for longest confirmed kill in any classified operation. He looked at Kane. 2,214 meters, through a sandstorm, at night, using thermal optics that were malfunctioning. 1 shot. Kane felt the blood draining from his face. That shot saved 17 lives, including a reporter whose name you'd recognize if I could tell you. Harrison closed the folder. "And you spent the last hour treating her like she was nothing." Sarah finally spoke. "Colonel, with respect, I'm retired. I'm here as a civilian contractor. My past is classified for a reason." "Retired?" Harrison almost smiled. "Phantom Protocol operators don't retire, Viper. They go dormant, but they never stop being what they are." He stepped closer to her. "Why are you here?" "Really?" Sarah's composure cracked just slightly. "My brother. He's 10. Our parents died 4 years ago. He's in foster care while I fight for custody. I needed stable employment, medical benefits, a clean record. You walked away from the most elite unit in American military history to file equipment reports. I walked away because I had something more important to protect." Harrison studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand sacrifice better than you know." He turned to Morrison. "Captain, this range just became a classified environment. Everyone here is now operating under a need-to-know restriction. What you've learned about Sarah Cole does not leave this location." Morrison nodded. "Understood, sir." Harrison turned back to Sarah. "I have a proposition for you, but first I need to know something." He reached into the briefcase again and pulled out a different folder. This one was even more heavily marked with classification stamps. "Can you still shoot?" Sarah's amber eyes met his directly. "There's only one way to find out, sir." Harrison smiled. It was the first genuine emotion he'd shown all morning. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear." He turned to address Kane and his team, who stood frozen in various states of shock. "Gentlemen, I suggest you pay very close attention to what happens next. You're about to receive a masterclass in precision shooting from someone who's forgotten more about long-range engagement than most operators ever learn." Kane found his voice. "Sir, we didn't know." "No, you didn't." Harrison's voice hardened. "You saw a young woman and decided she was worthless. You judged her by her appearance, her age, her gender, and you were wrong." He paused. "In the field, that kind of assumption gets people killed. Remember that." Sarah walked to Station 1 and picked up the Barrett with the same casual ease she'd shown all morning. But something was different now. Her posture had shifted. Her movements carried a fluid grace that hadn't been visible before. She wasn't pretending to be a civilian anymore. She was Viper 1. And Kane realized with a cold shock of recognition that the most dangerous person on this range had been standing right in front of him the whole time. He'd been laughing at his own guardian angel, and now that angel was about to show him exactly what she was capable of. Sarah chambered the first round without looking. Her fingers found the bolt by muscle memory, the motion so ingrained it had become instinct. 16 years of training compressed into a single fluid movement. Kane watched her settle into position behind the Barrett. The transformation was complete now. The meek contractor had vanished. In her place was something else entirely. Something that moved with predatory grace and absolute confidence. "Target distance," Sarah asked, her voice carrying a new edge. Harrison glanced at Morrison. "Start her at 1,000 meters. Standard qualification sequence." "With respect, sir." Sarah's amber eyes never left the downrange area. "I didn't come out of retirement for a qualification test." The colonel's eyebrow rose. "What did you have in mind?" "The special target, 1850 meters." A murmur rippled through the assembled operators. Torres actually laughed, then caught himself when he realized Sarah wasn't joking. "That target hasn't been hit in 7 years, Morrison said carefully. "The current conditions are 20-knot winds with gusts to 30. Visibility is degraded by morning haze. It's not a realistic engagement." "Every shot I ever took was unrealistic." Sarah adjusted the scope with micro movements, her fingers dancing across the turrets. "That's why they sent me." Kane stepped forward before he could stop himself. "This is insane. Even our best shooters won't attempt that target in these conditions." Sarah looked at him for the first time since picking up the rifle. Her amber eyes held something that made his stomach tighten. "Your best shooters aren't me." Harrison made his decision. "Give her the shot." The range fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Sarah's breathing slowed. Kane watched her chest rise and fall in a rhythm he recognized from advanced sniper training. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Box breathing. The technique used to lower heart rate to near resting levels before a precision shot. But she was doing it without conscious thought, like breathing itself. "She's reading the mirage," Torres whispered, moving closer to the spotting scope. "At multiple distances, I can see her eyes tracking the heat shimmer." Williams shook his head. "There's no way she can calculate all those variables in her head." "She's not calculating." Harrison's voice was quiet. "She's feeling. After enough rounds, the math becomes instinct." And Sarah made a final adjustment to the scope. Then her finger found the trigger. The world compressed to a single point. Between heartbeats. Between breaths. In that infinite moment of stillness that separated intention from action. She fired. The Barrett bucked against her shoulder. The report echoed across the desert like thunder. And then silence. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The distant ring of lead striking steel carried across the range like a bell. "Hit!" Morrison called out, her voice cracking. "Center of target, 1850 meters." Nobody moved. Kane stared at the distant target, then at Sarah, then back at the target. His mind refused to process what he'd just witnessed. "That's impossible," Brooks breathed. "Apparently not." Harrison's smile held genuine warmth. "Welcome back, Viper." Sarah worked the bolt, ejecting the spent casing. "One shot doesn't prove anything. Could have been luck." "Then prove it wasn't." She didn't hesitate. Her eye returned to the scope. Her breathing steadied. Her finger found the trigger. Crack. 3 seconds later, the ring of steel. "Same hole," Torres reported from the spotting scope. "She put the second round through the same damn hole." Kane felt his legs go weak. He'd spent 16 years in Delta Force. He'd trained with the best shooters in the world. He'd seen things that would give most people nightmares. He'd never seen anything like this. Sarah stood handing the rifle to Morrison with the casual ease of someone returning a borrowed pen. "Your zero is off by 0.2 mils left. You might want to check the scope mount." Morrison took the weapon numbly. Harrison clasped his hands behind his back. "Gentlemen, I believe the demonstration speaks for itself. Any questions?" Williams raised his hand hesitantly. "Sir, the Phantom Protocol program. It's real." "It was real. Officially, it never existed. 12 operators, 6 men, 6 women. Selected from every branch of service based on aptitude scores that broke every evaluation metric we had." He paused. "Viper 1 was recruited at 22, youngest operator in the program's history. She completed her selection course in 11 months. The previous record was 18. Torres found his voice. "What happened to the program?" Harrison's expression darkened. "Operation Blackwater, 3 years ago. A mission that went wrong in ways I still can't discuss. When it was over, only 4 operators walked away. 3 retired completely. 1 took a civilian contractor position at a military base in North Carolina." Every eye turned to Sarah. "Why?" Kane asked. The word came out rougher than he intended. "Why give up all of that to file equipment reports?" Sarah's jaw tightened. For a moment, Kane thought she wouldn't answer. Because some things matter more than the mission. What could possibly matter more than my brother? The words hung in the air. "Tyler is 10 years old." Sarah continued, her voice steady but strained. "He was 6 when our parents died. I was deployed. Couldn't get back for the funeral. Couldn't get back for anything." She looked at Kane directly. "While I was making impossible shots in countries that don't appear on maps, my little brother was bouncing between foster homes, wondering if his sister would ever come home." Kane's face went pale. 2 years ago, I found out he'd stopped talking. Completely. Trauma response, the doctor said. Too much loss. Too much abandonment. His own sister was a ghost who appeared for a few days every few months, then disappeared again. She paused. That's when I knew. No mission was worth losing him. No target was worth watching my brother slip away. Harrison's expression had softened. "And now I'm fighting for custody. I need stable employment. I need to prove I can be present. I need to show a judge that I'm not going to vanish again." But Torres stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, we didn't know." "You didn't ask." Sarah's voice carried no anger, only exhaustion. "You saw a young woman touching your equipment and decided she was worthless. You made assumptions based on what you wanted to see." Kane felt each word like a physical blow. "In my world," Sarah continued, "assumptions get people killed. A target who looks harmless might have a detonator. A building that looks empty might hold 30 hostages. A civilian contractor might be the most lethal shooter you've ever met." She looked at each operator in turn. "The moment you stop seeing clearly is the moment you fail. And when you fail in my line of work, people die." The silence stretched. Then Kane did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He extended his hand. "Master Sergeant Kane, I apologize for my behavior. It was unprofessional and unwarranted." Sarah studied his hand for a moment. Then she shook it. "Apology accepted." Kane's grip was firm, respectful. "The shot that saved my convoy in Syria, that was really you. August 14th, 16:43 hours local time. Your vehicle was third in the column. You took a round to the right shoulder while trying to pull Corporal Davis behind cover." Kane's face went white. "Davis didn't make it." "I know. I watched through my scope. I couldn't save him. The shot was already taken before I could acquire the shooter. Her voice dropped. I see his face sometimes. Wonder if I'd been faster. You saved 34 lives. I lost one. That's the one I remember. Harrison cleared his throat. Viper, I mentioned a proposition earlier. I think it's time we discussed it. Sarah's expression shifted to guarded neutrality. I'm listening, sir. The Army needs what you know, not just the shooting. Anyone can pull a trigger. We need the judgment, the experience, the ability to make impossible decisions in impossible situations. He paused. I want you to train our next generation of precision shooters. Part-time position, full benefits, flexible schedule that accommodates your custody case. Sarah shook her head slowly. With respect, Colonel, I walked away for a reason. Training shooters means staying connected to that world. That's exactly what I promised Tyler I'd leave behind. Training shooters means saving lives. Harrison's voice sharpened. Every operator you train is someone who goes home to their family. Every technique you teach is a skill that might keep an American soldier alive. I understand the math, sir. Do you? Because right now we have 3 sniper trainees who can't hit targets past 1,000 meters in controlled conditions. In 6 months, they'll be deployed to environments where missed shots mean dead civilians, dead teammates, dead Americans. He stepped closer. You can help prevent that. You can make a difference without pulling another trigger yourself. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her entire demeanor changed. I need to take this. She stepped away, pressing the phone to her ear. Kane watched her body language shift from professional soldier to worried sister in the span of seconds. Tyler, baby, what's wrong? The operators exchanged uncomfortable glances. This felt like something they shouldn't be witnessing. No, I'm not leaving again. I promise. I'm just at work. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. The nightmare. The same one, baby. Listen to me. I'm coming home tonight. I'm not going anywhere. She paused, listening. Yes, I promise. Triple promise. You want me to prove it? Okay. Tell Mrs. Chen to let you call me tonight at 7. I'll read you a story on the phone. Any story you want. Another pause. I love you too, buddy. So much. Be brave for a few more hours. Okay? I'll see you soon. She ended the call and stood motionless for a moment, her back to the group. When she turned around, her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Mrs. Chen says Tyler's been having nightmares again. She said to no one in particular. He keeps dreaming that I don't come back, that I disappear like Mom and Dad. Kane felt something twist in his chest. My brother is the only family I have left, Sarah continued. Everything I've done for the past 2 years has been for him. Every boring equipment check, every early morning, every time I swallowed my pride while people like you treated me like garbage. She looked at Harrison. You want me to train shooters, Sir Fine, but I have conditions. Name them. Tyler's custody hearing is in 8 days. Nothing interferes with that. If I have to choose between training and my brother, I choose my brother. Every single time. Agreed. Second, I maintain my civilian cover. As far as anyone outside this range knows, I'm still Sarah Cole Equipment Technician. The moment my identity becomes public knowledge, Tyler becomes a target. Understood. Third, I don't return to active operations. Training only. If Phantom Protocol tries to reactivate me, the answer is no. I've made my peace with that life. I'm not going back. Harrison was quiet for a moment. And if lives hang in the balance, if there's a situation only you can resolve. Sarah's jaw tightened. Don't ask me that question, sir. You won't like my answer. Before Harrison could respond, Morrison's radio crackled. Captain Morrison, we have a situation at the main gate. Civilian vehicle requesting access. Driver claims to be here for Sarah Cole. Says it's an emergency. Sarah's face went pale. Tyler. She was moving before anyone could react, sprinting toward the range entrance with a speed that belied her small frame. The operators stared after her, frozen by the sudden shift. Kane recovered first. Torres Williams with me. Something's wrong. They followed at a run, Harrison and Morrison close behind. At the main gate, a battered Honda Civic sat with its engine running. A middle-aged woman stood beside it, her face creased with worry. Mrs. Chen. Sarah grabbed the woman's shoulders. What happened? Is Tyler okay? He's fine, he's fine. Mrs. Chen's voice trembled. But the social worker came early. She wasn't supposed to be there until next week. She wants to do a surprise evaluation. Right now, she's waiting at my house. Sarah, she's asking questions about your job, about your hours, about why Tyler had a panic attack at school this morning. Sarah's face went white. A panic attack. He saw something on TV. A news report about soldiers overseas. He thought it was you. He started screaming that you were dead. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. I have to go. She turned to Harrison. Sir, I'm sorry. The training, the job, whatever you're offering, it has to wait. Go. Harrison's voice was firm. Family first. We'll continue this conversation when you're ready. Sarah didn't wait for further permission. She climbed into Mrs. Chen's car, and they were gone, before Kane could form a coherent thought. The operators stood in silence, watching the dust settle behind the departing vehicle. Torres spoke first. That's the most lethal sniper in American history. And she's terrified of losing custody of a 10-year-old kid. Because she knows what matters. Harrison's voice was quiet. The kills, the medals, the operations. None of it means anything if you don't have something worth protecting. He turned to face the assembled soldiers. Gentlemen, what you witnessed today stays classified. Sarah Cole's identity is protected under executive order. If I hear even a whisper of this conversation outside secure channels, there will be consequences. Kane nodded slowly. Understood, sir, but permission to speak freely. Granted. That woman saved my life. She saved 34 lives, and we treated her like she was nothing. Kane's voice roughened. I've been in the teams for 16 years. I thought I understood sacrifice. I thought I understood duty. But watching her choose her brother over everything she built, that's a different kind of courage. Harrison studied him. What are you saying, Master Sergeant? I'm saying that when she comes back, if she comes back, I want to be in her training program. I want to learn from her. Torres stepped forward. Same here, sir. Williams nodded. Count me in. Harrison almost smiled. I'll pass along your requests, but don't expect her to go easy on you because you apologized. Wouldn't want her to, sir. As the group dispersed, Kane lingered near the 1850 target, staring at the impact point that shouldn't have been possible. 2 rounds. Same hole. In conditions that would have made most shooters pack up and go home. He'd spent his entire career believing he was among the elite, the best of the best, untouchable. And then a woman half his size with no official service record and a civilian contractor badge had shattered every assumption he'd ever made. Morrison approached him quietly. You okay, Master Sergeant? I've been humbled before Captain. Comes with the job. Kane shook his head slowly. But I've never been humbled by someone who was simultaneously worrying about a 10-year-old's nightmares. That's what makes her different. She never lost her humanity. Most operators, after enough kills, something inside them goes cold. They have to survive. But Sarah... Morrison paused. She kept feeling. Every shot. Every target. She carried all of it. How do you know so much about her? Morrison was silent for a long moment. Because I was the one who found her cane. 15 years ago at a civilian shooting competition in Montana. 18 years old, using a borrowed rifle that was held together with duct tape, and she outshot every professional marksman on the circuit. Kane stared at her. You recruited her. I recommended her for evaluation. The rest was her own talent. Morrison's voice carried a note of something like pride. I watched her rise through the ranks faster than anyone I'd ever seen. And I watched her walk away from all of it for a kid who barely remembers her. Will she come back for the training position? Morrison looked toward the gate where Sarah had disappeared. I don't know. But I know this. Whatever she decides, it'll be the right choice. Sarah Cole doesn't make wrong moves. Kane turned back to the distant target. The wind had picked up again, howling across the desert with renewed fury. Dust devils danced in the distance. Conditions were deteriorating by the minute. And somewhere in that impossible wind, 2 bullet holes sat perfectly aligned in a steel plate that most shooters refused to even attempt. A reminder that limits exist only for those who believe in them, and that the most dangerous predators often come in the most unassuming packages. The social worker's name was Patricia Hendricks, 53 years old, 27 years with Child Protective Services. She'd seen everything. Abusive parents, neglectful guardians, children who fell through every crack in the system. She sat in Mrs. Chen's living room with a clipboard on her lap and judgment in her eyes. Sarah arrived 12 minutes after leaving Fort Bragg. She'd broken every speed limit between the base and the foster home. Her hands were still shaking when she walked through the door. Ms. Cole. Hendricks didn't stand. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. Where's Tyler? In his room. Mrs. Chen thought it best to give us privacy for this conversation. Sarah's jaw tightened. I'd like to see him first. You'll see him when we're finished. Hendricks gestured to the chair across from her. Please, sit. Every instinct Sarah had screamed at her to refuse, to push past this woman and find her brother, to hold him and promise him everything would be okay. But she'd learned long ago that instincts could be wrong, that sometimes the battle was won through patience, not force. She sat. Ms. Cole, I'll be direct. Hendricks flipped through papers on her clipboard. Tyler's psychological evaluation shows concerning patterns, attachment anxiety, separation trauma, recurring nightmares about abandonment. I'm aware of his challenges. Are you? Because his school reports indicate that his panic attacks have increased over the past 3 months. Specifically, they correlate with periods when you've been unavailable. Sarah felt the words like a knife. My job requires early morning hours. Sometimes I can't. Your job as an equipment technician at Fort Bragg. Hendricks looked up. That's what your employment records show. Yes. Interesting. Because when I called to verify your position this morning, I was transferred to 3 different departments. The final one told me your employment status was classified. Sarah's blood went cold. Ms. Cole, is there something about your work that you haven't disclosed to this office? The question hung in the air like a trap. Sarah knew the stakes. One wrong word, and her custody case could collapse. One admission of her real background, and Tyler would be labeled a security risk, moved to a specialized foster program, possibly relocated out of state. My position involves sensitive equipment maintenance, Sarah said carefully. Some of the work requires security clearances, that's all. Is it? Hendricks leaned forward. Because I've been doing this job for 27 years. I know when someone is hiding something. I'm not hiding anything relevant to Tyler's welfare. Let me be the judge of that. Hendricks pulled out a photograph. This was taken at Tyler's school 3 weeks ago. A man was photographed watching the playground from a parked vehicle. When security approached, he drove away. Sarah took the photo. Her heart stopped. She recognized the face. Viktor Petrov, former FSB, current contractor for private military organizations with questionable allegiances. The last time she'd seen him was through a rifle scope in Crimea. "Do you know this man?" Hendricks asked. Sarah's mind raced. Petrov at Tyler's school. Watching. Waiting. Which meant someone had connected her civilian identity to Viper 1. Which meant Tyler was already in danger. "No," she lied. "I've never seen him before." "Really?" "Because school security ran his plates. The vehicle was registered to a company called Black Ridge Solutions. When I researched them, I found they specialize in security consulting. The same phrase that appears on your original military discharge papers." Sarah's composure cracked. "You accessed my military records. I accessed what's available, which isn't much. Your service record has more redactions than a conspiracy document. Entire years are missing. Your discharge is listed as administrative with no explanation." Hendricks set down her clipboard. "Ms. Cole, I don't know what you did in the military. Frankly, I don't care. What I care about is whether Tyler is safe in your custody. He's safer with me than anywhere else." "Is he? Because right now you're a woman with a classified past, an unexplained connection to mysterious security companies, and a brother who has panic attacks whenever you leave for work." Hendricks stood. "I'm recommending that Tyler's custody hearing be delayed pending further investigation." "No." Sarah was on her feet before she realized she'd moved. "You can't do that." "I can and I will, unless you can provide a satisfactory explanation for the gaps in your history." Sarah's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. "Colonel Harrison. I need to take this. We're not finished. 1 minute." Sarah stepped into the hallway, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Sir, this isn't a good time." Harrison's voice was grave. "Sarah, we have a problem. Viktor Petrov was spotted on base surveillance 2 days ago. He was asking questions about civilian contractors." Sarah closed her eyes. "He's already found Tyler's school." Silence on the line. "How do you know that?" Harrison asked. "The social worker just showed me his photograph. He was watching the playground 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks? Why weren't we notified? Because nobody connected the dots until now." Sarah's voice hardened. "Sir, my cover is blown. Someone sold me out. And now my brother is a target." "We can provide protection, safe house, security detail. And what happens to my custody case? I can't take Tyler into hiding while CPS is investigating me. They'll use it as proof that I'm unstable." "Sarah, if Petrov is involved, this isn't just about custody anymore. This is about survival." She knew he was right. Petrov wasn't the type to observe and report. He was the type to observe and eliminate. If someone had hired him to find Viper 1, it was only a matter of time before he made his move. "I need to see Tyler," Sarah said. "I need to explain what's happening." "You can't tell him the truth." "I know that, but I can't let him think I'm abandoning him again." Harrison was quiet for a moment. "I'm sending Torres and Williams to your location. They'll provide discreet surveillance until we can assess the threat level." "Understood. And Sarah, whatever happens next, don't engage Petrov alone. He's not like the targets you faced in the field. He's trained to hunt people like you." Sarah ended the call and stood motionless in the hallway. Her mind was calculating options, running scenarios, searching for a path that didn't end with Tyler getting hurt. There wasn't one. Every option she considered led to the same conclusion. She couldn't protect Tyler and maintain her cover. She couldn't fight Petrov and win her custody case. She couldn't be both Sarah Cole and Viper 1. She had to choose. And no matter what she chose, someone she loved would pay the price. Ms. Cole? Hendricks appeared in the doorway. Your minute is up. Sarah turned to face her. Mrs. Hendricks, I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anyone outside classified channels. When I'm finished, you can make whatever recommendation you think is appropriate. But I need you to understand one thing first. Hendricks raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Everything I've ever done, every lie I've ever told, every secret I've ever kept, was to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Sarah's voice was steady. Starting with Tyler. She walked back into the living room and sat down. My name is Sarah Cole, but for 2 years I was known by a different name. Viper 1, Phantom Protocol Unit 7. Hendricks' expression shifted from skeptical to confused. I don't know what that means. It means I was one of the most classified shooters in American military history. It means I've killed 67 people in service to this country. It means there are foreign governments who would pay substantial sums to find me and make me disappear. She paused. And it means that the man you photographed outside Tyler's school isn't a random stranger. He's a former Russian intelligence operative who's been hired to locate me. Probably by someone I helped take down during my active years. Well, Hendricks' face had gone pale. This is impossible. Call Colonel Marcus Harrison at SOCOM. He'll verify everything I've just told you. Sarah pulled out her phone and wrote down the number. He'll also explain why this information needs to remain strictly confidential. Ms. Cole, if what you're saying is true, Tyler is in danger. Sarah's voice cracked for the first time. Not because of anything he's done. Because of who I am. Because I made enemies who will use anything to hurt me. She looked toward the hallway that led to Tyler's room. I walked away from that life to protect him. I gave up everything I'd built, everything I was good at, to be the sister he deserves. But it wasn't enough. They found me anyway. Hendricks sat down slowly, her earlier confidence gone. What do you want me to do? I want you to help me protect my brother. I want you to expedite the custody hearing before this situation escalates further. And I want you to trust that no matter what my past contains, my priority has always been Tyler. Before Hendricks could respond, a door opened down the hallway. Tyler stood in the doorframe. 10 years old, with the same amber eyes as his sister, the same stubborn set to his jaw. He was wearing a Captain America t-shirt and clutching a stuffed dinosaur that had seen better days. Sarah. She was across the room before she realized she'd moved. She dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms. Hey, buddy. I'm here. The lady said you might have to go away again. Tyler's voice was muffled against her shoulder. She said you might not be able to take care of me. Sarah felt her heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. Look at me. She pulled back and held his face in her hands. Tyler, look at me. He met her eyes. So young, so scared, so desperate to believe that someone wouldn't leave him. I'm not going anywhere. Do you understand? No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, I will never abandon you. You promise? Triple promise. He almost smiled. That's a lot of promises. It's the most important promise I've ever made. Sarah hugged him again. I love you so much, buddy. You're my whole world. Mrs. Chen appeared in the hallway, her expression worried. Tyler, honey, why don't you show me that drawing you were working on? Let your sister finish talking with Mrs. Hendricks. Tyler hesitated, reluctant to let go, but he nodded and allowed Mrs. Chen to guide him back to his room. Sarah watched him go, then turned back to Hendricks. Please, help me. Hendricks was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and dialed. This is Patricia Hendricks, CPS caseworker. I need to speak with Colonel Marcus Harrison at SOCOM. Yes, I'll hold. Sarah waited, her heart pounding. The conversation that followed lasted 15 minutes. Sarah could only hear Hendrix's side of it, but she watched the social worker's expression shift from skeptical to shocked to something that might have been respect. When Hendrix finally ended the call, she sat for a moment in silence. He confirmed everything you said. He also told me things that I don't think I'm supposed to know. She looked at Sarah. The operation in Syria, the convoy you saved. There were children on that route, a school bus that would have been caught in the ambush if you hadn't eliminated the threat. Sarah nodded slowly. 17 children, heading to a medical clinic across the border. And you never told anyone that. It's not in any of the public reports. It's not about credit. It's about doing the job. Hendrix stood and gathered her things. Ms. Cole, I'm going to recommend that the custody hearing proceed as scheduled. I'm also going to recommend emergency authorization for any security measures you deem necessary. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Hendrix paused at the door. Colonel Harrison also told me that the man outside Tyler's school is extremely dangerous. He suggested that you might be the only person capable of dealing with the threat. I'm retired. Are you? Because from what I understand, people like you don't really retire. You just wait for the next mission. Sarah didn't answer. Protect your brother, Ms. Cole. Whatever it takes. Hendrix opened the door. I'll be in touch about the hearing. After she left, Sarah stood alone in Mrs. Chen's living room. Her phone buzzed with a text from Torres. We're in position. Black SUV parked 2 blocks east. Eyes on all approaches. She typed back, any sign of Petrov? The response came immediately. Negative. But we found something you need to see. Check your secure email. Sarah pulled up the encrypted email on her phone. The attachment contained surveillance footage from a camera near Tyler's school. Viktor Petrov wasn't alone. He had a team. 4 operatives. All of them trained. All of them armed. All of them positioned at strategic points around the neighborhood. They weren't just watching Tyler. They were preparing for an extraction. Sarah's blood went cold. This wasn't about finding her. This was about taking her brother and using him as leverage. She called Harrison directly. Sir, we have a problem. Petrov has a full team. They're positioned for a snatch operation. Harrison's voice was tense. How soon? Based on their deployment pattern within the next 24 hours. We can have a response team there in 6 hours. Tyler doesn't have 6 hours. Silence on the line. What are you saying, Sarah? She looked toward the hallway where her brother waited, where the only family she had left trusted her to keep him safe. I'm saying that Viper 1 is coming out of retirement. Her voice was steady, cold, the voice of the woman who had eliminated 67 targets without missing a single shot. I'm saying that Viktor Petrov made a mistake when he threatened my brother. She ended the call and walked to the window, scanning the street with eyes trained to see threats that others missed. Somewhere out there, a team of killers was planning to take the only person she loved. They thought they were hunting a retired contractor. A woman who'd gone soft. A target who wouldn't fight back. They had no idea what they'd awakened. Torres met Sarah 3 blocks from Mrs. Chen's house. His face was grim. We count 5 hostiles, Petrov plus 4 operators. They're rotating positions every 2 hours. Professional surveillance protocol. Sarah studied the tablet he handed her. Satellite imagery showed the deployment pattern. 2 vehicles, strategic sight lines, overlapping coverage of every exit from the foster home. They're not watching. They're boxing us in. That's our assessment. Torres hesitated. Sarah, these aren't amateurs. Their movement patterns suggest Tier 1 training, possibly Spetsnaz. Former Spetsnaz. Petrov recruits from the same pool he came from. Sarah zoomed in on one of the vehicles. The van on Maple Street. That's their command post. See the antenna configuration, they're running encrypted comms. How do you want to play this? Sarah looked up from the tablet. Her amber eyes had changed. The warmth was gone. In its place was something cold and calculating. I need a rifle. Torres stared at her. You said you were retired. I said I walked away from active operations. I didn't say I forgot how to shoot. Williams approached from his surveillance position. Kane's on his way. He insisted on being part of this when he heard what was happening. Kane doesn't know what he's signing up for. He knows enough. Williams met her eyes. He said he owes you a debt from Syria. He wants to pay it back. Sarah shook her head slowly. This isn't a training exercise. People are going to die tonight. We know. Do you? Because once this starts, there's no going back, no do-overs, no second chances. She looked at both men. Petrov's team will be shooting to kill. If you're not ready for that, tell me now. Torres and Williams exchanged glances. Then Torres spoke. Ma'am, we've been in combat before. We know the stakes. You've been in combat with support. Air cover. Medevac on standby. Command coordination. Sarah's voice hardened. This is different. This is urban. Close quarters. Civilians in every direction. One missed shot, and an innocent person dies. Then we won't miss. Before Sarah could respond, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Cole. Ms. Cole. The voice was smooth, cultured, with just a trace of Eastern European accent. Or should I say Viper 1, I've been looking forward to this conversation. Sarah's blood went cold. Petrov, you remember me. I'm flattered. Bamsumtum. I remember watching you through my scope in Crimea. I should have pulled the trigger. But you didn't. Your rules of engagement prevented you from eliminating a target who wasn't actively threatening American personnel. Petrov chuckled. Such interesting restrictions you Americans impose on yourselves. What do you want? Straight to business. I appreciate that. His voice dropped. I want you, Ms. Cole. Or more specifically, I want to deliver you to the people who are paying me a considerable sum for your capture. And if I refuse, then I take your brother instead. He's such a sweet boy. Those amber eyes just like yours. He'll be very valuable as leverage. Sarah's hand tightened on the phone until her knuckles went white. If you touch him, I will hunt you across every continent on this planet. I will find everyone you've ever loved. I will... Threats are beneath you, Viper. Petrov cut her off. We both know how this ends. You surrender yourself, and Tyler lives a normal life with a nice foster family. You resist, and things become complicated. You think you can take me? I think I have 5 highly trained operatives and complete surveillance coverage of your location. I think your brother is currently in a house with minimal security. I think you have no support, no weapons, and no options. Sarah looked at Torres and Williams. You think wrong. Do I look out the window, Ms. Cole? 2nd floor of the apartment building across the street. You'll see my sniper. He has a clear line of sight to your brother's bedroom. Sarah's heart stopped. She moved to the window, scanning the building Petrov had indicated. There. A brief glint of light. A scope lens catching the afternoon sun. If I give the order, Petrov continued, your brother dies in the next 3 seconds. No warning, no chance to react, just a bullet through his window. What do you want? Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. Meet me at the warehouse on Industrial Boulevard, alone. 1 hour. Come armed if you like. It won't matter. And Tyler remains unharmed as long as you cooperate. Once you're in my custody, my team withdraws. Your brother never knows how close he came." Sarah closed her eyes. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to fight, to find another way. But there wasn't another way. Not with a sniper pointed at Tyler's window. Not with 5 operators ready to storm the house at Petrov's command. 1 hour. Excellent choice. Petrov's voice dripped with satisfaction. And Ms. Cole, if I see any sign of your military friends, Tyler dies first. Then Mrs. Chen. Then anyone else in that house. The line went dead. Torres grabbed her arm. "You can't do this. It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap." Sarah pulled free. "But he has a sniper on Tyler. I can't risk. Let us handle the sniper. We can—" "You can't." Sarah's voice was flat. "You're good, but you're not invisible. The moment you make a move, Petrov's spotter will see you, and Tyler pays the price." William stepped forward. "There has to be another option." "There isn't." Sarah looked toward the house where her brother waited. "I spent 2 years trying to build a normal life, trying to be someone else, trying to pretend that my past didn't matter." She turned back to face them. "But it does matter. Everything I did, everyone I killed, it all led to this moment, and the only way to protect Tyler is to stop running." "What are you going to do?" Sarah's expression hardened into something neither man had seen before. Cold, calculated, lethal. "I'm going to walk into that warehouse. I'm going to let Petrov think he's won, and then I'm going to kill every single person who threatened my brother." Torres shook his head. "Against 5 operators, that's suicide." "No." Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. "That's what I was trained for." She pulled out her phone and dialed Harrison. "Sir, I need a favor." "Name it." "The sniper position on the apartment building across from Mrs. Chen's house. I need it neutralized without alerting Petrov's team. We don't have assets in position yet." "Then find some. You have 55 minutes. Sarah, what are you planning? I'm going to end this. Tonight." She paused. "Sir, if I don't come back, make sure Tyler goes to a good family. Someone who will love him." "Sarah, promise me." Harrison was silent for a long moment. "I promise. But you're coming back. That's an order." "With respect, sir, I don't take orders anymore." She ended the call. Kane's vehicle pulled up as she was strapping on a tactical vest. He jumped out, his face tight with concern. "I just got briefed. This is insane." "Probably. You can't go in there alone." "I can, and I will." Sarah checked her sidearm. "Petrov made one mistake. He thinks I'm the same person I was 2 years ago. Someone who follows rules. Someone who hesitates." And she slammed a magazine into place. "He doesn't know that I'm not fighting for my country anymore. I'm fighting for my brother, and there's nothing I won't do to protect him." Kane grabbed her shoulder. "Let me come with you. As backup." "No." "Sarah, Kane." She looked at him directly. "If I fail, Tyler will need someone to protect him. Someone who understands what we're dealing with. Can you do that?" Kane's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Then that's your mission. Not following me into a trap. Not playing hero. Protecting Tyler if everything goes wrong." She turned to leave, but Kane's voice stopped her. "The shot in Syria, the one that saved my convoy." He swallowed hard. "I never got to thank you properly." Sarah paused. "You just did." "Come back alive. That's all I'm asking." She almost smiled. "I'll do my best." 45 minutes later, Sarah approached the warehouse on Industrial Boulevard. The building had been abandoned for years. Perfect for an ambush. Multiple entry points, poor lighting, plenty of cover for hidden gunmen. She walked through the front door without hesitation. Petrov was waiting in the center of the main floor. 2 of his operatives flanked him. The other 2 were positioned in the shadows. Sarah catalogued their locations without appearing to look. Viper 1. Petrov spread his arms. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Where's my guarantee about Tyler? My team has already withdrawn from the surveillance positions. Your brother is safe. Petrov smiled. For now. Sarah stopped 10 feet from him. What happens now? Now you come with me. Quietly. No resistance. My employers are very eager to meet you. And who are your employers? People with long memories and deep pockets. People whose operations you disrupted, whose assets you eliminated. Petrov's smile widened. You've made many enemies, Viper. Tonight some of them get closure. Sarah nodded slowly. Before we go, I have a question. Ask. How did you find me? My cover was airtight. No connections to my old identity. No digital footprint. How did you know I was here? Petrov chuckled. You really don't know. Enlighten me. Someone on the inside sold you out. Someone with access to Phantom Protocol personnel files. Someone who knew exactly where to find the legendary Viper 1. Sarah's blood ran cold. Who? Does it matter? You'll be dead soon anyway. It matters to me. Petrov studied her for a moment. Your former handler, the one who recruited you. She needed money for medical treatments. Cancer, I believe. Very expensive disease. Morrison. Captain Julia Morrison had sold her out. The woman who'd found her at a shooting competition 15 years ago. The woman who'd mentored her through selection. The woman she'd trusted with her life. I see the recognition in your eyes. Petrov's voice dripped with satisfaction. Yes, it hurts, doesn't it? Betrayal always does. Sarah's mind reeled. Morrison had been at the range this morning, had known exactly where Sarah would be, had probably been feeding information to Petrov for months. But she couldn't process that now. Couldn't afford the distraction. Thank you for telling me. Sarah's voice was steady, despite the chaos inside her. Now I know exactly who needs to die. Petrov laughed. Bold words for someone surrounded by my men. Your men. Sarah's eyes swept the room again. Let me count. 2 flanking you. 1 in the northwest corner behind the machinery. 1 in the southeast corner near the loading dock. Petrov's smile faltered slightly. That's only 4. Sarah tilted her head. Where's the 5th? I don't know what you're... The sniper. The one who was covering Tyler's window. Sarah took a step forward. He's not here. Which means he's still in position. Which means you lied about withdrawing your team. Petrov's expression hardened. Clever. But it doesn't change anything. It changes everything. Changes. Sarah's hand moved toward her sidearm. Because if your sniper is still active, then I have nothing to lose. Don't be stupid. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Maybe. Sarah's fingers closed around her weapon. But I'm also the best shot in this room, and your men are about to find out what that means. She moved. The first operative went down before anyone could react. Single shot to the head. Perfect placement. The second operative managed to raise his weapon before Sarah's bullet found his chest. He collapsed backward dead before he hit the ground. Petrov dove for cover, shouting orders in Russian. The third operative opened fire from the northwest corner. Sarah rolled behind a support column, returning fire with mechanical precision. 2 shots. Both hits. He crumpled. The fourth operative was smarter. He held his fire waiting for a clear shot. Sarah didn't give him one. She moved through the warehouse like a ghost, using shadows and cover to mask her approach. Every motion was efficient, every step calculated. This was what she'd been trained for, what she'd been made for. The fourth operative never saw her coming. She was behind him before he registered movement. Her knife was across his throat before he could scream. He fell. Sarah stood in the sudden silence, her breathing controlled, her weapon raised. "Petrov," her voice echoed through the warehouse. "I know you're here. I know you're scared, and I want you to understand something." She moved forward, clearing corners with practiced efficiency. "Everything you threatened, everything you planned, it ends tonight." A sound from behind a stack of crates. Petrov trying to reach the exit. Sarah was faster. She stepped into his path weapon, raised her amber eyes cold as winter ice. "Going somewhere." Petrov froze. His hand hovered near his holstered sidearm. "Don't." Sarah's voice was flat. "I've killed 4 of your men in the last 90 seconds. You won't be faster. You won't shoot me." Petrov's voice shook despite his bravado. "You need information. Who hired me? Who else knows about Tyler?" "You're right." Sarah lowered her weapon slightly. "I do need information." Petrov's shoulders relaxed. Sarah moved. She closed the distance between them in a heartbeat, her knife appearing in her hand as if by magic. The blade pressed against Petrov's throat before he could react. "But I don't need you alive to get it." She leaned close. "Your phone, your laptop, your communications with whoever hired you. It's all digital. It's all recoverable. You're bluffing." "Am I?" Sarah pressed the blade harder. A thin line of blood appeared. "I killed 67 people during my active years. Some of them begged, some of them threatened, some of them tried to negotiate." She locked eyes with him. None of them survived. Petrov's composure finally cracked. "What do you want? Call off your sniper, now! I want to hear you give the order." Petrov hesitated. Sarah pressed harder. Okay. He fumbled for his radio with trembling hands. "Volk, stand down. Abort the mission. Return to extraction point." A crackle of static. Then a voice speaking Russian. "Confirmation." Sarah felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Tyler was safe. For now. Now. She pulled back slightly. "Tell me everything. Who hired you? How they found me? What they want?" Petrov talked. He talked for 10 minutes straight. Names, organizations, payment channels. The full scope of the operation to capture Viper 1 and deliver her to enemies she'd made during her years of service. And he talked about Morrison. How she'd reached out 6 months ago desperate for money. How she'd provided access codes and personnel files. How she'd positioned Sarah at Fort Bragg specifically because it was easier to monitor. When he finished, Sarah stood in silence, processing the betrayal. "What now?" Petrov asked. "You have what you want. Will you let me go?" Sarah looked at him. At the man who had threatened her brother. Who had planned to tear apart the only family she had left. "No." She pulled the trigger. Petrov fell. Sarah stood over his body for a long moment. Then she holstered her weapon and pulled out her phone. "Kane, it's done." "Tyler. Safe. Petrov called off his sniper before I ended him. And Petrov's team? There is no team, not anymore." Silence on the line. "Where are you?" "Industrial Boulevard warehouse. I need cleanup, and I need you to bring Harrison up to speed." "On what?" Sarah's voice hardened. "On the fact that Morrison sold me out. She's been feeding information to Petrov for months." Kane's intake of breath was audible. "Morrison. That's impossible." "I have confirmation from Petrov himself. plus whatever digital evidence is on his devices. Sarah stepped over the body at her feet. She betrayed me, Kane. She betrayed everything we stand for. What are you going to do? Sarah walked toward the warehouse exit. The night air was cool against her face. Clean. First, I'm going to see my brother. I'm going to hold him and tell him everything is okay. She paused. Then I'm going to find Morrison, and she's going to answer for what she did. Sarah arrived at Mrs. Chen's house at 11:47 p.m. Her hands were steady. Her clothes were clean. She'd changed before coming, leaving the blood-stained tactical gear in the trunk of Torres's vehicle. Tyler was asleep when she entered his room. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching his chest rise and fall. Peaceful, safe, unaware of how close he'd come to losing everything. She crossed to his bed and knelt beside it. Her fingers brushed the hair from his forehead. "I love you, buddy," she whispered. "More than anything in this world." Tyler stirred. His eyes fluttered open. "Sarah." "Hey." She managed to smile. "Go back to sleep. Everything's okay now. You came back. Came. I told you I would. Triple promise, remember." He reached up and wrapped his arms around her neck. She held him tight, feeling his small body against hers, smelling the little boy scent of soap and sleep. "Don't leave again," he murmured into her shoulder. "Never." Her voice cracked. "I'm never leaving you again." She stayed until he fell back asleep. Then she kissed his forehead and stepped quietly from the room. Mrs. Chen was waiting in the hallway. The older woman's eyes were red-rimmed. "Is it over?" "Almost." Sarah's expression hardened. "There's one more thing I need to handle. The woman who betrayed you." Mrs. Chen's voice carried no judgment. "The colonel called. He told me what Captain Morrison did." "Harrison knows?" "He knows. He wanted me to tell you that she's been taken into custody. She's being held at Fort Bragg pending investigation." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Investigation? That's not enough." "Maybe not." Mrs. Chen placed a gentle hand on Sarah's arm. "But it's the right way, the legal way. If you go after her yourself—" "I know." Sarah closed her eyes. "I know. Tyler needs you, not in prison, not on the run. Here. Present. Being his sister." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Because Mrs. Chen was right. Every instinct screamed for vengeance, for confrontation, for Morrison to understand exactly what her betrayal had cost. But Tyler came first. Always. "I'll do it your way," Sarah said finally. "But I want to see her. Face to face. I need to understand why." Mrs. Chen nodded. "The colonel said you would. He's expecting you at 0800. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She sat in a chair beside Tyler's bed, watching him breathe, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. At 07:30, she kissed her brother goodbye and drove to Fort Bragg. Harrison met her at the main gate. His face was grave. "Before you see her, you need to know something." "I already know she has cancer. Petrov told me. It's worse than that." Harrison fell into step beside her as they walked toward the detention facility. "Stage 4. Metastatic. The doctors gave her 6 months." Sarah felt nothing. "That doesn't excuse what she did." "No, but it explains it." Harrison stopped walking. "She has a daughter, Sarah, 16 years old, single mother, no savings, no family support. So she sold me out to pay for treatment. She sold you out to make sure her daughter would be taken care of after she died." Harrison's voice carried something that might have been understanding. "The money wasn't for her. It was to set up a trust fund, college, living expenses, a future. Sarah stared at him. You're defending her. I'm explaining her. Harrison met her eyes. What she did was unforgivable. But she did it for the same reason you walked away from Phantom Protocol, for family. Don't, Sarah's voice hardened. Don't compare us. I never betrayed anyone. No, you just killed 5 men last night. The words hung between them. They threatened Tyler. And Morrison thought she was protecting her daughter. Harrison shook his head. I'm not saying she was right. I'm saying the line between hero and villain isn't always as clear as we want it to be. Sarah was silent for a long moment. Then she continued walking toward the detention facility. I still need to see her. Morrison was in an interrogation room. No handcuffs, no restraints. Just a tired woman in civilian clothes sitting at a metal table with shadows under her eyes. She looked up when Sarah entered. I wondered if you'd come. Sarah sat across from her. You have 30 seconds to explain. There's nothing to explain. You know what I did, you know why. I know you sold me to people who wanted me dead. I know you endangered my brother. I know you betrayed 15 years of trust. Morrison's eyes glistened. I never thought they'd go after Tyler. Petrov promised. Petrov was a murderer and a liar. Sarah's voice cut like ice. And you believed him because it was convenient. I believed him because I was desperate. Morrison's composure cracked. 6 months. That's what they told me. 6 months to live. And my daughter would be alone. No money, no support. Nothing. So you made a deal with the devil. I made a deal with the only people who would pay enough to secure her future. Morrison leaned forward. Do you know how much it costs to set up a trust fund that will carry someone through college and beyond? Do you know what it feels like to count the days you have left and know that everything you worked for won't matter because your child will be destitute? Sarah's jaw tightened. You could have asked for help. From who? The military. They'd have discharged me the moment my diagnosis went public. Harrison. He'd have offered condolences and a modest pension that wouldn't cover a year of living expenses. From me. Morrison went silent. You could have asked me. Sarah's voice dropped. I would have found a way. I would have helped. Would you? Morrison's laugh was bitter. The legendary Viper won. The woman who killed 67 people without blinking. You expect me to believe you would have dropped everything to help your former handler pay for her daughter's future? Yes. The simple word seemed to take all the air out of the room. Because that's what family does, Sarah continued. And whatever else you were, Julia, you were family. You found me when I was 18. You gave me purpose. You believed in me when no one else did. Morrison's tears spilled over. I was afraid. I was dying, and I was afraid. So you chose fear over loyalty, fear over trust, fear over everything we built together. Yes, Morrison's voice broke, and I will regret it every day I have left, which isn't many. Sarah sat in silence for a long moment. The anger was still there, burning in her chest. But underneath it was something else, something that felt uncomfortably like grief. Your daughter. Emily. Morrison looked up sharply. You remember her name? I remember everything. Sarah stood. I'll make sure she's taken care of. College, living expenses, whatever she needs. Morrison's eyes went wide. What? Not for you, for her, because she didn't choose any of this, because she doesn't deserve to suffer for your mistakes. Sarah, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. Sarah moved toward the door. But understand something. This is the last thing I will ever do for you. After this, we're done. Whatever connection we had died the moment you sold me out. Morrison nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Sarah paused at the door. One more thing. Yes. Petrov's employers, the people who hired him, I need their names. Morrison hesitated. If I give you that information. They tried to kidnap my brother. They will try again. Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. I need to make sure that never happens. Morrison was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote it down. Names, account numbers, communication channels. Everything Petrov shared with me. Sarah took the paper. This doesn't make us even. I know. Morrison met her eyes. But maybe it's a start. Sarah left without another word. Harrison was waiting outside. How did it go? I got what I needed. Sarah held up the paper. Names of everyone involved. Petrov's entire network. And Morrison, she'll answer for what she did, through proper channels. Sarah's voice hardened. But her daughter is innocent. I want your word that Emily will be protected. Harrison nodded. You have it. Good. Sarah pocketed the paper. Now about that training position you offered. Harrison raised an eyebrow. You're accepting with modifications. I'll train your shooters 3 days a week. The other days belong to Tyler. No exceptions. Agreed. And I want full operational security for my identity. No one outside your direct command learns who I really am. Already arranged. One more thing. Sarah met his eyes. The names on this list. I want authorization to pursue them. Not now. Not until Tyler is stable and the custody case is settled. But eventually. Harrison studied her for a long moment. You're talking about going back in the field. I'm talking about making sure no one ever threatens my family again. That's not the same as retirement. No. Sarah's voice carried the cold edge of a woman who had killed before and would kill again. It's not, Harrison nodded slowly. I'll see what I can arrange. Unofficial capacity. Deniable assets. That's all I need? 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in a courtroom. Tyler sat beside her, holding her hand so tight, his knuckles were white. The judge reviewed the case file for what felt like an eternity. Ms. Cole, your background check came back with several notable redactions. Yes, Your Honor. My previous employment involved classified government work. I've reviewed the supporting documentation from Colonel Harrison. The judge looked up. He speaks very highly of your character and capabilities. Colonel Harrison has been extremely supportive, Your Honor. So have several other individuals. Master Sergeant Kane, Staff Sergeant Torres, Specialist Williams. The judge almost smiled. It seems you have quite a few people willing to vouch for you. Sarah glanced over her shoulder. Kane, Torres, and Williams sat in the gallery, all in dress uniforms. They nodded at her. The question before this court is whether granting custody to you is in Tyler's best interest. The judge looked at Tyler. Young man, do you have anything you'd like to say? Tyler stood up. His voice was small, but steady. Sarah is my sister. She's the only family I have. She comes to see me every day now. She reads me stories. She helps me with homework. She makes me feel safe. He squeezed Sarah's hand. I know she had to go away before. She had an important job. But she came back. She always comes back. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Tyler. She reviewed her notes one final time. The courtroom held its breath. Based on the evidence presented, the character references provided, and the clear bond between these siblings, this court grants full custody of Tyler Cole to Sarah Cole, effective immediately. Tyler threw himself into Sarah's arms. She held him tight, tears streaming down her face, unable to speak. "You did it," Tyler whispered. "You kept your promise." "Triple promise," she managed. "I never break those." Kane approached after the proceedings. "Congratulations. Thank you for everything. We're the ones who should be thanking you." Kane extended his hand. "You saved my life in Syria. You opened my eyes at the range. And you showed me what real sacrifice looks like." Sarah shook his hand. "The training starts next week. Be ready." "We will be," Kane grinned. "But go easy on us. We're not all legendary snipers." "You could be." Sarah's voice softened. "That's the whole point." 6 months later, Sarah stood at the Fort Bragg long-range qualification course. 12 soldiers were arranged in firing positions, working through the drills she'd designed. Tyler sat at the observation post doing his homework. His grades had improved dramatically since the custody transfer. His nightmares had stopped entirely. "Viper," Torres called out. "Got a new batch of recruits coming in tomorrow. Kane wants to know if you'll run them through the stress inoculation course." "Tell Kane I'll think about it." Sarah smiled slightly. "Actually, tell him yes, but warn him that I'm not going easy on anyone." Her phone buzzed. A message from Harrison. "Target from your list located. Yemen. Extraction team assembled. Your skills required. Voluntary basis only." Sarah read the message twice. Then she looked at Tyler bent over his homework, occasionally pausing to watch the soldiers on the range with undisguised fascination. She typed back, "Send me the briefing. I'll review it tonight." The response was immediate. "Copy. Good to have you back, Viper." Sarah pocketed her phone and walked to Tyler's position. "How's the homework coming?" "Almost done." Tyler looked up. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "The soldiers you're training, you're teaching them to protect people, right? That's right?" "Like you protected me?" Sarah knelt beside him. "Exactly like that." Tyler nodded seriously. "Then I'm glad you're doing it, even if it means you have to go away sometimes." "I'll always come back." "I know." Tyler smiled. "Triple promise." Sarah hugged him tight. Over his shoulder, she watched her trainees working through their drills. Some of them would become excellent shooters. A few might even approach her level of precision. All of them would carry her lessons forward, her techniques, her philosophy, her unwavering commitment to protecting the innocent. The legend of Viper 1 had evolved. She was no longer just a ghost who killed from the shadows. She was a teacher, a guardian, a sister. And at the end of every day, she went home to the only person who mattered more than any mission. The steel target at 1850 meters still bore the impact marks from that first demonstration. 2 rounds, same hole. A reminder that the impossible was just another challenge, waiting for someone skilled enough to overcome it. But for Sarah Cole, the greatest achievement wasn't the shot that defied physics. It was the small hand that reached for hers every morning. The voice that called her name when she walked through the door. The trust that had been earned through presence, not performance. She had been Viper 1. The most lethal sniper in American history. Now she was something more. She was home, and no force on earth would ever take that away from her again.